On today's Locked On NBA Game Night podcast, the Celtics bounced back. Is it enough to win the series?
When that final buzzer rings, you know it's time for Locked On NBA Game Night. All the post-game reactions to every game across the league, every single night, with insights only the hosts at Locked On can provide. It's the true NBA fans' one stop for all the action. Every game, every night. It's Locked On NBA Game Night. Tipping off now.
Let's get it going on the Locked On NBA Game Night podcast on the Locked On Podcast Network, your teams every day. Thank you so much for making us your first listen every single morning, every single day. We're here for you talking NBA basketball. We're talking Celtics, Knicks, Wolves, Warriors, NBA playoffs. I'm Rylan, Stiles, host of Locked On Thunder. That's Gavin, Schall, host of Locked On Knicks. And Gavin, why not just start with your New York Knicks and bring in John Corrales, host of Locked On Celtics, to recap the Celtics bounce back win?
Boston Celtics get the Game 3 win very easily. They did a lot of the things that they weren't doing in Games 1 and 2. Specifically, most importantly, making shots. They were 20 of 40 from 3. So I personally recommend hitting 50% of your three-pointers moving forward. They got a big production out of Payton Pritchard, 23 points off the bench, a playoff career high for him. That was something that they weren't getting earlier on in the series. And then they were getting the stops that they needed. They were getting the momentum shots that they needed. They were not letting the Knicks go on an extended run. Even when the Knicks scored 6 or 8 points, the Celtics would come down and hit a shot, make a play, get a defensive stop to kind of end that run. So they didn't let things get out of hand. It's a very methodical, very Celtics win. And they could play better, but this was plenty good enough to blow the Knicks out and take one game here after losing 2 at home. Pressure's on the Knicks, I think, for Game 4. If the Celtics win both of these at MSG, changes obviously the complexion of the series and gives them all of the momentum, but it's a good start.
It is a good start to the Celtics revenge tour, Gavin. A lot to talk about from this game, starting with, was it as simple as the Celtics just making shots, or did they dissect the Knicks defense better?
First of all, I have to give John Corrales some credit, playing some mind games with me, saying the pressure's on the Knicks when it's the Boston Celtics down 2-1. Pressure's still on you guys, John. No, I actually kind of agree with him. I think it was a combination of factors. Obviously, Boston was due to shoot a lot better after a historically poor first 2 shooting games in this series. I think they benefited a lot from the Knicks not executing their game plan coming into this series the same way, which was to switch everything. And Karl-Anthony Towns inexplicably was playing drop defense for portions of the first half, which is how the Knicks got absolutely ramshackled the first 3 times they played them in the regular season. And lo and behold, similar results got Jason Tatum into a great rhythm early, got Jaylen Brown into a good rhythm early. And it was only like a couple of plays where I noticed it, but it felt like Boston got it 3 every single time. Knicks, a great adjustment from Joe Mazzulla to run more stagger screens. I think like Karl-Anthony Towns really struggles when having to defend like multiple like actions in a single sequence. And the Knicks in general struggle with that because their communication defensively is not very good. I thought the Knicks consistently overhelped on Jalen Brunson, who was held up really well defensively. That resulted in some of the Payton Pritchard magic that John was referencing. So I think a combination of factors, but you give Boston credit, right? They got the machine going. Like this was classic Celtics basketball, like draw 2, spray, swing, get it 3. And once they got into that rhythm, like they were very hard to stop, and their defense was fantastic. The Knicks offense continues to be putrid, and it all added up to a big Celtics win.
So I would agree that the math would say that the pressure is on Boston because they're the team that can fall down 3-1, but the vibes. Let's talk vibes. What's the feeling like? Obviously, this was a very anticipated game for both sides, really, but especially for New York. You stole 2 in Boston. You get to come back in front of your home crowd for the biggest game in the Garden in the 2000s. Like, what do you think now coming out of this game? Is there any reason to panic or to question New York, or is it just one game?
Yeah, I think panic is probably strong, but I do think there are reasons to question. I mean, Jalen Brunson came out after this game and said he felt like on some level, possibly subconsciously, like the Knicks took this game a little lightly and the Celtics had a greater sense of urgency, which is a little hard to like comprehend because to your point, like this was an opportunity to like statistically end the series. Like maybe Boston comes back and win it. They almost did that trick 2 years ago against Miami, but like this would have essentially put a needle in it, and it is kind of a microcosm of the Knicks' whole season, where they do a lot of things well. They have these great stretches, like even within games, and it never feels easy for this team, right? Like they can never quite hold it together. They very rarely hold on to get the blowout. Usually a team makes a big run and makes a game of it. Even games 1 and 2, like they played terribly and they fought their way back from 20 points down. And it just sort of felt like there was this like feeling, like people describe the Celtics as entitled the first 2 games. Like I think there was a little bit of entitlement on the Knicks part in this game. And it's not to say the Celtics weren't fantastic. It's not to say that I would argue that Boston isn't like clearly the better team in a vacuum. It is to say that the Knicks like did not have their best effort tonight. And I thought like there was a distinct lack of intensity from the first moments of this game. And the Knicks were not playing as if their season was on the line, which I think is honestly what it takes for them to beat this Boston team.
What do you think it was about this effort from Boston defensively to really stall some of New York's offense in a series where they found success from other guys? They scored 93 points in this one. It was, Brunson who had 27 points on 42% shooting. It was Bridges who had 12 on 60% shooting. But, OG wasn't efficient. Josh Hart wasn't efficient scoring the basketball. What do you think was the biggest change from that aspect of not allowing New York to really get comfortable at all, much less, score at a high clip?
Yeah, so I think, to be clear, I think the Knicks offense has been pretty bad in this series. Like they've been coasting on big fourth quarters overall in the playoffs. The Knicks offense, I mean, going against 2 great defenses, but it's been bad. I think they're 13th now in offensive rating of the 16 teams that made the playoffs. They are clearly the worst, unless Golden State really dropped down tonight, of the teams that are still in the playoffs. So it has been a playoff-wide issue. Even more than that, after a start to the year where they were putting up, I think, a top 5 offensive rating in NBA history through the first like 35 or 40 games, like they've been like a slightly above average offense since then. Like this has been a long trend. The starting lineup has consistently, just as a whole, like been mediocre since the All-Star break, a negative, and they were getting by on like really thin margins in the first 2 games. Like an incredible Mikal Bridges fourth quarter against the Celtics game 2, like exceptional finishes by Jalen Brunson. The other night in game 2, like Cat just had a great stretch of shot making in the second quarter. But I think it was like less so that the Knicks were consistently beating the Celtics with scheme. And that's not to say they weren't doing good things offensively. It's more so guys were like able to make plays at important moments. And tonight, or they didn't really have that. Like Jalen Brunson statistically had a good game. Like just did not like it did not feel like 27 points and 7 assists worth of impact for him. And that being said, he was clearly the Knicks' best guy on offense. Like Karl-Anthony Towns really hurt his finger. He was 5 for 18, did get to the free throw line 11 times. So that was good to see. I think he was hurt a lot by the fact that they could, and this hurt the Knicks on both ends. Like Mitchell Robinson has arguably been the Knicks' most important player in this series, and he had a relatively poor game in this one. Part of it was that the Celtics really leaned into Hack-a-Mitch, and he was just 4 for 12 from the line, but only getting to play 19 minutes, not a ton of time with him and Cat, as they're both kind of in foul trouble on and off. The Knicks coming into this game, again, in very limited minutes, but a plus 80 net rating with those two on the floor together. And when Mitch is on the floor, it makes it very difficult to double Cat with another big, because then you leave Mitch alone in the dunker spot. So I think that hurt Cat. He wasn't able to get to the same post-ups he was able to get to in game 2. And a continued issue for Cat is like just the inability to get threes off. Actually shot 5 in this game, so that's encouraging, but only made 1. The 1 was the first he hit since game 5 against the Pistons. And we know as long as the Knicks have Josh Hart on the floor, it's going to be very difficult for Cat to get threes, because the Celtics are just going to put a wing on him. So unless Tom Thibodeau wants to lean into 5 out, which all of us in the media have kind of been asking for, I think a lot of just fans have been asking for, and it does not seem like a priority for him. It's going to be tough sledding against a defense as good as Boston, unless Josh Hart is all of a sudden hitting threes. And tonight he went 0 for 3, like didn't take enough, didn't make any. So on a night where you go 5 for 25 overall, there's a lot of systemic reasons for it, but 5 for 25 versus 20 for 40, like you're just not going to win that math battle. And that's kind of what Boston counts on.
Coming up, we're going to head over to the Western Conference, where the Timberwolves got a much-needed win against the Golden State Warriors and play buy or sell with the remaining NBA playoff series. But first, I want to say right now, but good friends over at DoorDash, go check out DoorDash today, because NBA fans, you know what time it is. It's NBA playoff season, which means big performances and even bigger rewards. DoorDash is bringing the heat with a slam dunk deal for Dash Pass members during the 25 NBA playoffs. They swish, you save. Anytime a player drops 50 or more points in a playoff game, Dash Pass members can score a free 3-piece crispy tenders combo from Wingstop the very next day. Just place an order of $20 or more and use code WINGSTOP50 at checkout, and that combo is yours. Crispy, delicious, and totally free. Offer valid from noon to midnight the day after said 50-point game. Terms and conditions apply. So here's the play. You sign up for Dash Pass to unlock this and more exclusive deals all season long. When any player scores 50 or more in a playoff game, Dash Pass members can grab a free 3-piece crispy tenders combo from Wingstop the next day. With a $20 or more order, with code Wingstop50, that's Dash Pass, your door to more savings, more flavor, and more ways to win. Terms and conditions apply. We're back on Locked On NBA Game Night. I'm Rylan Stiles, host of Locked On Thunder. That's Gavin Schall, host of Locked On Knicks. And Gavin, out west, this was a much-needed win for the Minnesota Timberwolves, 102-97 at the end of it. 12 lead changes, 7 ties in this one. Ultimately, a pretty good showing at home for Golden State without Steph Curry, and of course Draymond Green fouled out in the later stages of this game, which hampered them. But Jimmy Butler tried his best to be playoff Jimmy and take over, and he did just that. It felt like playoff Jimmy kind of ran out of gas a little bit toward the end of the game. He finished with 33 points. He missed a few that could have gone in late. That would have maybe swung this game a different direction. But ultimately, you can't question the 33 points, 7 assists, 7 boards from Jimmy Butler. He did all that he could for this Golden State team, but they did not get enough from pods to win this game through the adversity that they faced. But they did get a 30-point night from Jonathan Kaminga off the bench. What a story that has been for Golden State since the Steph Curry injury. But ultimately, whether you win by 1 or 100, Minnesota did do their job and get this one back while the Warriors are dealing with this Curry injury.
Yeah, it felt like maybe a C+ game for Minnesota. And honestly, like I give Steve Kerr, I give Jimmy Butler, I give Draymond Green like a lot of credit for that, right? Because it was a lot of smoke and mirrors for the Warriors in this one to even stay close. Like there was a point. Well, you know what? I was going to say like there's a point where Jonathan Kaminga and Jimmy Butler had 40, I think it was 41 of their 63. But I'm like, I don't even have to go back that far. They had 66 of their 102, right? Those two guys were the entire offense. Like Buddy Hield really came alive in the second half. Honestly, like I'm a big Buddy guy. Rylan, we talk about this all the time. Big Oklahoma fan. So I love Buddy. This is the best defense I've ever seen him play. This is like the best stretch of offensive basketball, like in like meaningful games he's played in the NBA. So that's really exciting. But on a night where like Minnesota didn't have their fastball, like I just kind of like the maturity down the stretch to close out this game. And I weirdly, because this is not what I would have associated with him on the Knicks, I attribute a ton of that to Julius Randle. A 24-point, 12 assists, 10 rebound, triple-double. The defensive playmaking was there too with 3 steals. Just his fourth quarter, I thought was exceptional. I thought the decision-making throughout this one was I'll use the same word again, like exceptional, like compared to like what he was on the Knicks, just over and over again down the stretch, like making the right decision. Like I love the sequence that essentially put the game away, where the Timberwolves put together this great defensive possession. They give up the offensive rebound, but then Anthony Edwards almost immediately strips Jonathan Kaminga. He hits it ahead to Julius Randle, like Knicks Julius Randle in that situation, pushing it coast to coast, like blindly throwing up a layup. He pushes and waits for both guys to jump, flips it back to spins, flips it back to Rudy Gobert. Rudy Gobert two-handed dunk. And then like 2 or 3 possessions later, sets up Ant. He misses. Gobert gets the rebound out to Randle. Randle just whips it right back out to Ant. Ant hits a 3. And Ant was really struggling in this game, right? Like in the first half, what did he have? He started up 3 for 11, 8 points, and he got going because Julius hit him 2 times in a row for a layup and I think a dunk, cutting off of Julius Randle post-ups. And then from there, Ant really got cooking. Monster second half for him. He scores 28 in the second half. And it was ultimately enough for Minnesota to win a game, like where I think like what stands out to me most about this team is just elite depth. Like the depth didn't play that well. It was their stars doing just enough to match Golden State's. And even on a night where their depth doesn't play that well, it's better than what Golden State has without Steph.
Yeah, and the maturity to close this game out was noticeable, especially on the road. And you look at from everything that you've mentioned and the McDaniels timely threes, he goes 3 for 4 overall, but a lot of those threes came in big spots for this Minnesota team. The Timberwolves did their job while being able to clean a lot of things up and play a lot better. So I think that the series really hinges, of course, on Steph Curry and how he can come back. And if Golden State can try to get a win here on their home court and avoid going down 3-1. But ultimately, I think that when you look at this Timberwolves team, it's all right there in front of them because you do see Julius Randle I think it's pretty obviously playing the best basketball of his postseason life.
Yeah. I think, and look, he had a bad rep with the Knicks that I think was unfair. Like his two he didn't play any in New Orleans, didn't play any with the Lakers, comes to the Knicks, drags them to the playoffs in 2020, 21. Elfrid Payton's his point guard. The Hawks are basically throwing 4 guys at him, like treating him like it's Jordan rules on Julius Randle. Does not have a good series there. And then comes back a couple years later in 2023 and hurts his ankle. And like right when he gets rolling against the Cavs, hurts his ankle again, sucks against the Heat. Everyone's ripping him, myself included. And it turns out he needed ankle surgery that offseason. Like, and then last year, like it sucked because he was playing the best basketball of his life when he went down with that torn shoulder. It's so cool. Like, even though it's not in the Knicks anymore, to get to see him play and show off the full, like, breadth of his game. And the Warriors from the get-go were trying to bait him into shooting threes. And he took the bait a little bit at the beginning. And he's like, no, I don't need to do that. And you see him getting going in the pick and roll, like a short roll flip shot, like pick and roll downhill for a layup, like posting up Moses Moody, bumping him off, like pivoting back into like a 2-step banker, just a beautiful, patient post move. And then I love the recognition when Draymond picked up that 4th foul and went out of the game. He said, okay, it's my time to shine. Bullies Jimmy Butler for a spin and a layup. Draymond comes back in. He's like, all right, guess what? I'm in a rhythm now. Doesn't matter. Attacks him for a lefty layup. Draymond gambles for a deal. He gets a dunk. Lost 2 buckets in the 4th quarter because they came like a half, maybe a 10th of a second after the shot clock ended. I just thought like the combination of contributions from him and again, the decision-making has just really stood out to me this entire postseason. And honestly, like, I think it is hard to say they get better when they lose Cat, just because Cat is a different level of an offensive talent. And I never thought I would describe Julius this way, but like he is just a more mature basketball player than Towns. And like right now, in some ways, like he doesn't give you that same spacing if you are maximizing Cat at his best. But with Rudy, Cat was never going to be maximized. That spacing was never going to be maximized. So at least with Julius, like you get some maturity in this group that I think was desperately needed because Ant is so improved in that area. But you saw the gap between him and Jimmy Butler in terms of just like game management in this one. And I think Julius gives some of that to Ant that's much needed.
Coming up, let's play buy or sell with NBA playoff series. Who's going to end up winning it all at the end of this postseason? But first, I want to say right now, my good friends over at Amazon Fire TV. Did you know that your Amazon Fire TV is also an Xbox? Turn any TV into your gaming and entertainment hub with Fire TV Stick 4K devices. No console required. Just grab your paired controller. Subscribers sign in to Xbox Game Pass Unlimited with EA Play, including that you'll be ready to play thousands and hundreds of premier titles, such as my personal favorite, EA Sports College Football 25. Tennessee Vols already have a couple national titles, no big deal. Go check it out today because they have the latest technology for elevating play. I know a lot of you might be thinking, well, what about the latency? What's the technology inside of this Fire TV Stick 4K? It delivers a smooth, more responsive gameplay with lightning fast speed so you can stay competitive in your games. Even the most hardcore gamer can experience and kind of enjoy the Amazon Fire TV. And the reason I love it so much is because of the travel aspect. It's much easier to travel with your Amazon Fire TV stick versus an actual console. So head to Amazon.com/Fire TV Locked On to get started. That's Xbox Game Pass Unlimited subscriptions and compatible controller required. Available for select devices, including the Fire TV Stick 4K second generation, Fire TV Stick 4K Max first and second generation, and Fire TV Cube. We're back on Locked On NBA Game Night Podcast. I'm Rylan, Stiles, host of Locked On Thunder. That's Gavin, Schall, host of Locked On Knicks. Gavin, let's go back out to the East. Buy or sell, the Cleveland Cavaliers are making this comeback over the Indiana Pacers.
I'm going to buy it. I did. Spoilers for my Celtics Knicks pick, but unless a team is within a game of winning the series, I always tend to default to the one I think is better. I know that's crazy, but Cleveland looked on a different level with their full roster back. The conservative strategy from Kenny Atkinson might ultimately pay off. I think game 4, but I know bold call here, like probably going to decide the series. Biggest thing for me is Indiana just has zero answer for Donovan Mitchell. And now with the supplemental pieces to ensure that, like, in moments where he's on the bench or if he needs a little break, like you can lean into Garland, you can lean into Mobley, you can lean into Jared Allen in the pick and roll game. You can lean into like those guard to guard, like screen and pops, but like there's just no answer to Mitchell going to the rim. And I just don't think Indiana has a button to press that's quite that unstoppable. But what are your feelings on that series?
Yeah, I'm going to buy it as well that Cleveland will make this comeback for all the reasons that you mentioned, and not even just whenever Mitchell's off the floor being able to sustain a level of play, but when Mitchell's on the floor, just the sheer gravity that those guys have. For a guy who is already getting his way at will offensively, it spreads Indiana's defense a bit too thin for my liking, and I just don't think that the Pacers can keep pace, no pun intended, with the Cleveland Cavaliers in this series now that Cleveland is back. And we've seen throughout this playoffs home court has not mattered a bit in this postseason. And David Alman talked about that, gave a really good answer about he thinks that in some ways it's AAU culture of just these guys are so used from the word go of their basketball careers, traveling all over the country and not playing at a home base, that it doesn't really impact them. And he also mentioned the stadiums are not as loud as they were back in the day, which I would agree with. So I just don't buy into like they don't have home court now, that the Pacers stole it. Well, you can steal it right back with a win in game 4, and it's all going to be okay for Cleveland. So I'm going to go Cleveland still wins that series. Let's shift over to the other number 1 seed, and I really want your take on this. Maybe you can settle some people down. Buy or sell, the Oklahoma City Thunder will be able to avoid an upset and beat the Denver Nuggets.
Oh man, Rylan, I really
love
wish
Oklahoma,
you went first.
Gavin.
What'd you say?
You love Oklahoma. Don't forget.
I do love Oklahoma. I wish you had went first and I could follow your lead on this one. I don't like the way that last game ended. I'm going to buy it on the same premise that I think Oklahoma City is probably the better team at the end of the day. And with some tweaks, like should just have a healthier margin for error than Denver does. But I do not feel good about it, Rylan. And if you were replaced by Matt Moore right now, I might be saying that I picked Denver. I don't know. I'm very susceptible to peer pressure in front of me. I think Oklahoma City's looking a little shaky. This was kind of my fear with them. Like, would the role players be able to hit big shots in big moments? Would they be able to like provide like just enough help for Shea down the stretch of these games? Obviously, J-Dub was incredible. Like he checked that box in a big way in game 3, but man, I don't know. Denver's just more seasoned, and it feels very similar to Knicks Celtics, where like if it's not a blowout, I'm leaning Denver, but it could be a blowout 3 more times really easily. I just think I fall back on how good Oklahoma City is, but man, I do not feel good about it. Do you feel good about Oklahoma City still?
No, I think that when we look at this series, I don't know what the technical term would be in the stock market, but you would just hold. If you pick Thunder to win the series, you can hold it. Just like we talked about with Cleveland, they're the better team until they're a game away from elimination. You can just hold it out and see what happens. But if you pick Denver to win the series, you should just feel really, really good. It goes without saying that game 4 will decide things. So I guess I would sell on the notion of like the most likely thing to happen would be that Denver gets one of the next 2. And to me, if they get one of the next 2 games, the series is over. Denver's won the series. That's a lot of pressure to put on this young Thunder team. Now, I did pick Thunder in 7 before the series, and I had to drag Matt Moore and Locked On Nuggets to the finish line of like, hey guys, Denver can actually win this series. Like, hello, they're not dead and buried here because they were picking Thunder in 5. And so I picked Thunder in 7. You can stick with that Thunder in 7 prediction as of this week's episode and not feel ludicrous. We could revisit this next week and have a lot of egg on the face. But I'll stick with Thunder in 7. It just is not looking great at this very moment in time. But the Thunder go win game 4. They win game 5 at home, and all of a sudden they're back in the driver's seat. We did the same thing to Denver 1 week ago whenever we buried them after their game 3 loss to the Clippers, a blowout loss even to the Clippers, and all of a sudden they flipped it back with home court advantage, which the Thunder have a chance to do here on Sunday night. But let's head back out to the East. We've already recapped game 3 of this series. Knicks, Celtics. Can your Knicks hold on? Buy or sell, your Knicks can do just enough to get the Celtics and can kind of wear them out a little bit, as it's really hard to repeat, and they've gone through a ton of long playoff battles. They've got to be wearing and tearing a little bit. Do you think your Knicks can do it, buy or sell?
I'm going to sell it. Same premise. We have a 90-game sample size that says Boston is a substantially better team. We had a 4-game sample size in the regular season that said there was a big gap between these 2 teams. And that's not to say I think there was anything fluky about what the Knicks did in the first 2 games. I thought there was a reason Boston missed all those shots, and the Knicks gap defense and the ability of their wings, once you were isolating Brunson and Cat, like it does, like if you're going to target those guys, that's great, but it frees up the wings to be like pure off-ball weapons. When like in the last series against the Pistons, you had OG Anunoby on the ball and it took him away off the ball. So I do think the Knicks found something in that. I think they'll double down. They'll recommit to that. I don't know why. Like, I cannot explain it for the life of me, why they got away from that in game 3. I think they're due for better offense. I think Jalen Brunson is due for like a 40-point game, even against the defense the Celtics put against him. And I say all that, and like, I think this team is just not reliable. And I have some questions about Boston. Like, I actually don't think, even though Jason Tatum shot well from 3, I don't think he played particularly well in this game. And I think he is very much in his head right now. I just think there are enough other guys there, and you're seeing enough from Payton Pritchard, who like is just a 5-alarm fire every time he touches the ball. I am magnitudes more afraid of Payton Pritchard than anyone else on that Celtics team. Kristaps Porzingis had pretty easily his best game in the series. He's looking like, hopefully for Boston, hopefully just for his sake, a little bit better, a little bit healthier. I think the Celtics are probably ultimately going to have too much for a Knicks team that's somewhat thin and just does not lean into their best lineups at the end of the day. I think that's too much to overcome against a great team, even with a 2-1 head start.
Yeah, I would also sell this. I think Boston will win the series. I think for all the reasons that you laid out, and just if we're taking the home court equation away because it's not proven to matter this year, like Boston doesn't even have a true disadvantage because New York has not been able to sustainably beat good teams. Like you mentioned, they didn't beat a good team until the playoffs. So it's like this has been a small sample size in the grand scheme of things. And I know that we get so wrapped up into this sample size because everybody's watching these games. Everybody's seeing how it's unfolding. And then you got to sit with it for at least a couple of days before seeing your team play again. But ultimately, you got to trust the numbers here about Boston being the better team and the fact that these were back-to-back horrendous shooting nights to start this series to blow these leads for Boston that are the outlier still, even as you can question Missoula ball a little bit. And with all due respect to Golden State, we're going to end the buy or sell with a little more tame question. Buy or sell, Golden State can win another game in this series.
That's a great one. When do you think Steph Curry comes back? I guess that's my first question. I know that's not a fair question.
Yeah.
You're not a doctor.
Let's say that
You haven't been examining his hamstring as far as I know. But
yeah, I haven't touched his hamstring yet, but I look forward to one day maybe. But let's say he misses game 5.
Yeah. No, I kind of don't think they win another game. I think like you got the great Butler game. You got, I cannot imagine Jonathan Kaminga. We didn't really talk about it for a segment. So I'll take a second here. He blew me away in this one. I know kind of the critique of him in the past has been like, he's probably been too focused on bag work relative to like learning Steve Kerr's offense and like incorporating himself in that system. But like they kind of need bag work right now. They need a guy who can go out there and just put some points on the board and create his own offense. And like he did incredible work off the ball in this game, like cutting off of Jimmy, cutting off of Draymond, and was just a monster finisher. But like some of the self-creation stuff, like his drive on like Nas, where like Nas where he was stopped and then he steps through and he gets to the line. The one like in semi-transition where like he throws like a hezzy and kind of looks like he's getting into a pull-up on Rudy Gobert, then goes right into him and scores on a flip. Like the dude like looks like a bona fide, like ready NBA playoff scorer. I just cannot imagine like 30 points on 11 of 18, 3 of 4 from 3, 5 for 6 from 3, or from the free throw line is plausible again. And what Jimmy did tonight, like also we didn't touch on it much, but like he was incredible. 33, 7 and 7, 12 of 26. The guy does not want to shoot threes, but he's forced to in the playoffs, and he made 2 of them, 7 free throws. Like he cooked Ant. We got to talk about that. He cooked Ant, like absolutely nasty spin move. Rylan, I don't know about you. I love when the old guys cook the young guys. Like those are my favorite moments in basketball, but like, I don't see where those guys are having a better game. And yes, maybe you get a game where Pods and Hield are hot simultaneously, and Jimmy plays well, and Draymond makes 2 threes, and you fluke into one. But I think that sense of desperation is there for Minnesota because they don't want to see Steph again, because they know if Steph comes back, like anything's within play. And based on what we've seen so far, Golden State is probably the better team with Steph Curry. And I don't think Minnesota wants to mess with that. My final note there is I think the Timberwolves can still play a lot better. And I think anyone who watched their first round series against the Lakers, watched the way they closed out the regular season when they were one of the hottest teams in the league, knows there's a higher ceiling here. I wouldn't be surprised if they mess around because I still think they're an immature team in some ways, but just enough veteran presence between Randall, Gobert, Conley, and some Ant brilliance to drag them through.
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and buy that Golden State will win one more game for all the reasons that you've laid out the end there. Of just, I think that Minnesota's going to come out flat, in one of these games, perhaps overlooking their opponent. I still believe in Pods that he can have a couple. He can have a game in him. To be clear, I believe that he can have a game, which is not saying a ton. I think that Kaminga can give you not this level sustainably, but he can give you a playable level sustainably. And then just playoff Jimmy. You have to buy into his ability to create free throws. You have to buy into his ability to be an engine for a team. And like you mentioned, if you get a Draymond Green fluky 3-point game, all of a sudden it swings one singular game. Not even to mention like the question mark about Steph of what if he comes back sooner than we think. So I'll guard myself and just buy that the Warriors will win at least one more game in this series. But Gavin, that was fun. Go check him out at Locked On Knicks, getting you content out all the time about the New York Knicks, especially here in the playoffs. You can find me at Locked On Thunder. You can find us back together again like a Buck Owens song next Saturday, Locked On NBA Game Night. Until then, be good and be good to one another.